What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special Down on the Island presentation of Down Once More. I'm your host, Matt, and we're trying something a little different. It's week 5 of Love Island USA Season 7. It is the week of the 4th of July. I've got vacation this week. Instead of doing one massive recap at the end of the week, I decided I'm going to try to do little mini recaps as the week goes, and we're going to see how it works out. Partially because last week I found the things that I was super fired up and frustrated about after the Sunday night's episode. By the time I went to record on Friday, that had passed. So many things had happened. It was over. It was in the dust. So recording as we go, I'm hoping, will help me have a little more raw reactions to it. These will be a little shorter, a little sweeter. We're going to give it a shot. I don't know what it's going to look like for Thursday or Friday's episode because I'm out of town. But I've got some ideas, so we'll see what happens. Okay, episode 24 tonight. I watched Aftersun last night for the first time. I'm getting interested, see what Hannah and Jeremiah have to say. I will not be watching Aftersun again. Yeah, there were a couple unseen bits. There was one of Amaya just talking to herself. Well, she was very aware of the camera. She was looking straight at the cameras, talking to them as well about knowing her self-worth, which, great. Love Amaya. But it didn't really add that much to me. Then we had another one of the Casa Amor boys pretending to do a runway walk, and that was a fine 30-second clip. But the interviews were not really asking any hard-hitting questions. Like, how are they? Like, it's on a produced show. They're not going to question things. Even in, like, Jeremiah's video package that they showed him when he came on about his time there, it didn't really show any of the toxicity, which I get. You want to focus on the positive and good. But it was showing all the lovey-dovey stuff with him and Huda, which probably isn't what he wants to think about at that moment either. So I get it was a big part of the journey of being there, but I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. But tonight's episode 24, kicking off week 5, the second to last full week of Love Island. The finale's on July 13th. We picked up right where last night's episode, or Friday night's episode, lay off after everyone came back and the recoupling at Casa and the votes for Alondria and Elon to stay. Alondria and Shelly and Sierra were all talking, and Alondria told Sierra about her and Nick's kiss, said there were no sparks. They both just kind of decided that it was going to be just more friends. Nothing really there. And Sierra's like, I'm not bothered by it. That's cool. Go you. Yeah, you absolutely. I get it. You explore. But yeah, I'm not bothered at all. And then she had a conversation with Nick. Said she didn't feel any type of way about that. And she said the reason it was so easy with Nick, because she didn't really feel the type of sparks with Elon that she feels with Nick. Nick, she just wants to jump his bones all the time. She didn't have that with Elon. So he has nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, then we had Shelly talked to Ace and was honest with him, said, hey, I'm going to explore you. I'm going to explore Chris. And Ace is like, well, is he ready to go to war? Which I get. I feel like this episode especially, there's been flashes of it in the past. Ace says he's not a jealous person. He comes across as a very jealous person, and a little possessive at times too. So, and I feel like that came out later in the episode when he's talking to Taylor in the sauna after Chris had pulled Shelly and they were out for a chat in Soul Ties. And it seemed like he was almost like upset with Taylor. He's like, I had a good connection with Coco too, but I chose to keep Shelly because I feel like we built something and it's stronger, and you chose Clark, and now you still get to explore both Alondria being here, and that makes me frustrated. At least that's how it was edited. It seemed like he was talking about Taylor and annoyed that Taylor is kind of getting this opportunity to explore both. I don't know, but the first half hour of this week's episode was just all the couples that were there together visiting. We didn't see Elon or no Landry really having any chat, but Andrina and Brian were talking. She said she still wants to get to know all the guys. He said, yeah, absolutely. He wants to have chats, get to know people too. And then Andrina in the talking head said she has kind of a crush on Pepe, really wants to kind of have some chats with him, explore that. Iris and TJ talking. Iris said she didn't have the sparkle in her eye when she was talking to Zach C like she does with TJ. She called him her Barbie. She called him Barbie to her Ken, is how she said it. And I don't know if that was a slip up or just be fun, but I don't know. Kind of cute. I think they work as a couple. I don't necessarily love either of them. I've gotten to like Iris more, but TJ doesn't really do it for me. Huda and Chris were talking, and she made multiple statements about like, yeah, I want you to be able to explore too. Like we can explore and have a conversation, but I more want to let you explore other people too. Almost like she's trying to hint like she wants him to go for Shelly. And later on in the conversation in the episode that got brought up again, but she was telling him, she's like, yeah, but like really, I'm chill as fuck. I don't care if you explore and do your thing, which was not the case with Jeremiah, which granted her and Jeremiah a little bit different situation. And then she was bringing up like if he lives in a house or an apartment, and he said, I just move. I'm usually not in LA that long between like playing basketball overseas. And she's like, cool, well, when my lease is up, we're popping off and we're popping. And I don't know, it almost seemed to me like she was trying to talk about moving in or seeing what he wanted outside. I felt like there were moments of this conversation when he seemed like a little bit intimidated and scared by her. Maybe I'm reading into it. Maybe he was fine because he said he liked the energy she was giving in the conversation is what he told her. I felt like his face and his voice said differently, but that was the words that he was telling her. He said he was excited to explore their connection. She was making him feel good. So we'll see. Is there something there? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily see it. Chris is still very much about Shelly, as we saw in this episode. And I think Hood is still struggling. She had the real hot and fast romance with Jeremiah, and that was a big thing to her, and had a connection, and she is feeling manipulated by him. Whether that's how it was or not remains to be seen, but that's how she felt. Felt like she had whiplash from that, and now she's like, I feel like now she is more casually crashing out, but she is still just struggling and then feeling like at times she's doing too much. Maybe not. That's just the vibes I get. Austin and Jaden talking. Austin, such a big deal about like we're sleeping together. I need to get back scratches tonight. And so excited about getting back scratches. Interesting. And then I felt like when they kissed, it seemed like she was pulling away. Maybe not. I just feel like he's a very awkward man. He makes me laugh sometimes, but man, is he awkward. But they seem good in a couple, both kind of goofy and quirky. And then when it showed after, when everyone went to bed, Andrina and Brian were making out, Iris and TJ were all making out, Sierra and Nick definitely making out, maybe some more. She did say she was wanting to jump his bones. So the next morning, Amaya, when everyone was waking up, that she's in the room where they all get ready, she's just singing to herself, making up a song about the day, and then doing a somersault. Amaya has grown on me. Originally, I was so annoyed with Amaya. Occasionally, she could still be a bit grating, but usually she seems sweet. She seems just goofy, quirky, and I do enjoy her. She has been a little bit of comic relief the last few episodes. Nick made a comment. When he was down in the kitchen, he had made Sierra's breakfast. Elon came down and he said, oh, yeah, I'm not going to double up on breakfast then since you're already doing it. Nick made sure to cut Sierra's pancake in a C because that's what Elon had been doing when he brought it. But then Elon still brought her pancakes cut in a C, even though he said he wasn't going to double up on it. Still kind of show that effort. There are a few things this episode. I get you got to do what you want to do, but the way Elon moved, I didn't really love it. I don't necessarily love everything Nick does, but I don't know. wasn't about it. Shelly talking to Sierra and Alondria about kind of just being torn with Chris if she still wants to explore. She does have something built with Ace. Asking Sierra if she's going to explore Elon, and Sierra's like, look, we had a good talk last night, but Nick hasn't told me he wants to be closed off yet, so I don't know. I feel like I have to kind of be open. And talking to Alondria, kind of seeing where her head's at. She's like, well, I want to be charged and just go off, but I need to save face, need to be the bigger person, not look bad in here. And so still kind of being chill. We didn't see her and Taylor talk at all during the day of this episode. But Taylor was talking to Ace, and Nick said he is still open to exploring Alondria. So he said he had voted. It was revealed there because we didn't see everyone's specific vote. He said he voted to keep her there. So I wonder, it seems like him and Clark were doing well. They're having good conversations, still being kind of like touchy-feely, kind of cutesy together, make her breakfast, bring her that. I don't know. I personally, as a couple, think I see Taylor and Clark better. I really liked him and Alondria together as friends. I think they vibed. They had a good relationship, but not like a romantic relationship. I've been saying that since the beginning on here. Nick is like, well, I worried about Elon for 4 days. Now that he's here, I'm not going to worry about him anymore. Like, Sierra made her decision. She chose me. She told me that. I'm not worried about it. Elon, then it cut to nice editing and back and forth, talking to Chris, saying his intention was still to explore Sierra, and he's going to show that with his actions too. And then this is where I started not liking Iris as much. She was talking to Sierra and is like, you know, it's crazy that Nick and Alondria made out, like your best friend and your boy. They made out with each other in soul ties. And if that were me, I would think that was crazy. I'd have nothing to do with that. That's wild that all of a sudden they decided they wanted to explore each other. And I'd be like, girl, Sierra was doing fine with it. And I was worried it was going to turn into a whole thing. Because like Sierra was doing fine with it. They had a conversation. Like, yeah, they were a couple. They didn't, like, Nick didn't know what was going to happen with her, if she was going to come back. It's about exploring. They had talked about the point was to exploring. She was exploring Elon. It does make it a little weird since Alondria is her friend, but hey, I get it. Chris pulled Shelly for a chat, talking to her, saying he's not going anywhere. He's going to step it up a notch, talking about doing a remix of a song for her, throwing her name in it. He asked her if she's ever had a song written about her, and she said yes. And this is when Ace and Taylor's conversation happened, where it seemed like Ace was kind of spiraling a bit, and he's like, I don't do this triangle stuff, but it's just because it feels less in control here. He was in a triangle with Shelly and Austin. I mean, not really, because Shelly and Austin didn't seem like the connection was there, but by appearances, he was in a triangle with Shelly and Austin before. But that was she was clearly showing more interest in him. Now he's feeling a little threatened, is the vibe I got out of it. Ian Sterling, fantastic narrator, as always. Had to get in his Alondria elevator salesperson comment in again. It's good almost every episode, I swear. It's great. And then I felt like Ace and Shelly had a conversation too. I felt like Ace came across like he was very muted and mild and seemed kind of upset about everything. And like she brought up, like, I've been thinking about like, how's it going to work with us outside of this if we're still together? And I felt like he was just kind of, I don't know if it was taken back or a little upset. And he's like, if you were my partner outside the villa, then you'd be my priority. Because remember, they live on two different coasts right now. So trying to see what that all looks like. Chris then pulled Ace for a chat, and the visual of those two walking away, I felt bad for Ace because Chris is just a massive man at 6'8", and I think Ace is like 5'7", they said. So that's a rough visual. I did think it was funny. Ace acted like when Chris was walking, he was behind, like he's gonna do the flying elbow, people's elbow on him. I thought that was entertaining, but they just had a conversation. It was mature. Chris was like, hey, I'm not here, like, if she tells me, look, I'm not into you, I'm just really feeling Ace, then I'm going to back off. But I'm not here to get in a dick swinging competition or anything like that. Just want to be cool, chill. I don't have a problem with you. Ace tells him he doesn't have a problem with him. They're all kosher. All go their own way. They get a text saying that the challenge for the night is the Heartrate challenge. It's going to be a couples challenge. Now, in previous seasons, it has usually been the guys are down there and the girls are all up there, and then one at a time the girls go do their dance. Well, all the other girls are watching and they dance, the guys make out with them and go one at a time, and it switches as well. And usually they bring in a bombshell in here. This being a couples one switches it up a bit. And at first I'm like, what are we doing here? But I did, as it went on, I kind of liked it, because then it had where both people in the couple are kind of distracted and doing their own thing. So there was less of infighting among the couples. It was more other people in the villa that then would get upset about stuff. And so I kind of liked that twist. But before the challenge, Nick and Sierra were talking, and Nick told Sierra if she does some crazy shit on Elan, he's probably going to crash out. And then she's like, well, I'm not excited about you kissing other girls. And he said, okay, I won't kiss other girls. She said, okay, I won't go crazy on Elan then, which is kind of a fair conversation to have, but it's also not necessarily the vibe of the challenge. Like, it's a challenge, it's a game, you got to do what you got to do. And so that was kind of the conversations we saw. And then Elan and Olandria were talking about what they were going to do, and talked about, well, maybe we pull the people that we were coupled up with before as the finale for it. It's going to be great. That's going to be the trick. I'm like, oh boy. But a couple of highlights from the game: Iris and TJ with their dance. He was a doctor and she was a dog, I think, making out with lots of people, but they took Sierra and Nick onto the platform and then were kissing on them and kind of dancing on them. So that's who they singled out and pulled. That we saw in the edit. Maybe they did it to every couple. I don't know. Maya and Zach went. They were kissing everyone and going in. And Amaya kissed Sierra. Almost everyone kissed Sierra. Andrina and Brian went. Andrina went in on Pepe. Like, she talked about, there was a conversation earlier in the episode too, where she was talking with Olandria about how she really had a crush on Pepe, and Olandria is encouraging her to go for it, saying you both have your Spanish like background and stuff too, so that's a good fit. And then, so she really went in on him on the kiss. And then Austin and Jaden went and also kissed everyone. Austin, his dance was mostly shaking his ass at people from what we saw, which was just so weird and awkward. But Jaden also kissed Sierra, and then in the talking head, it was like, I like kissing girls sometimes, and Austin's just like, score. And then she's like, she was a great kisser, better than Nick, actually. I thought that was kind of funny, but all the girls love kissing Sierra. Sierra likes kissing all the girls too. Shelly and Ace went. This is when Shelly went in on Chris and also kissed Sierra. And then Shelly went back to Chris again, so went in for seconds. Ace was going in on everyone, kissing. They were doing a lot. And then they pulled Amaya into the middle. Ace called her babe. Nice callback to what he said he hated being called babe. And they did a 3-way kiss with her. It's hot. Good for them. Getting those heart rates up. That's what you're trying to do. I don't know if I ever said it. That's the gist of the challenge. They're all wearing heart rate monitors, and at the end you say who got their heart raised the most by who, which is a little bit of a flawed system. It's not necessarily an excited, turned on. I'd be nervous as shit with some of that, and if someone was started going in on me next to my partner, yeah, I'm getting, my heart rate's going to be beating more just in general because of the situation, because I'm going to be nervous. And so then Huda and Chris went next. Huda was grinding, bouncing on everyone, did like a like handstand into then shaking her ass, making it clap in front of someone's face, just going all in. She is not beating the Midnight Ballerina allegations, which there's nothing wrong with that, but she's doing a lot. She has some moves, and the guys are a fan. But then they pulled Ace and Shelly into the middle. Chris went, kissed, made out with Shelly, and then Huda is making out with Ace, and Huda went hard, and she kept going and kept going, bouncing on it, flipping around, bouncing on it, making out. kissing all over him. Well after Shelly and Chris were done, Shelly was pissed. Shelly felt like Huda, she's like, you say you're my girl. She felt like that was over the line, even though it was a challenge. I feel like both weren't necessarily great or necessarily in the right here. I feel like Huda was going the extra mile. It is the challenge. You're trying to raise the heart rate, though. So I think Shelly shouldn't take it too personally, especially how much she was going in on Chris. Like, yeah, Huda was being a little extra, but it's a challenge. She hasn't pulled him for a chat. But a talking point earlier was like, maybe the reason Ace is so just in Huda and Jeremiah's business is because he had a thing for Huda and just kind of pissed that they weren't open to exploring. I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily buy that, but he seemed like he was enjoying it. So I don't know. Huda tried to reach over to Shelly and be like, girl, we good? Are you mad? And Shelly's like, we'll talk later. That talk did not happen this episode. I think it's going to kick off tomorrow night's episode. Grayson and Pepe went. They were kissing everyone. Huda's like, it's like Peter Pan and Captain Hook because Grayson was dressed as a pirate. Pepe was not even remotely like Peter Pan. He had black wings on, a black leather harness, and like little shorts. Not giving Peter Pan vibes at all. She maybe could be giving Captain Hook vibes, pirate, but no. What are we talking about here? Sierra and Nick went. They pulled Iris and both went in on her, doing lots of kissing. Nick was kissing up her like leg and stomach. Sierra's making out with her. Then Nick licked Alondria's foot and sucked on her toe. May have a little bit of a foot thing, but dude, like after they've been walking out there, a wild move, wild. And Sierra in the talking head is like, if you're wondering, yes, I have made out with Nick after he had Alondria's entire foot in his mouth, and yes, I can still taste her nail polish. Hilarious. I laughed out loud multiple times during those two's talking head. I do. Do they have their problems? Absolutely. But I do just enjoy them both as a couple most. But then at the end, they pulled Shelly into the middle and kissed all over her and then did a 3-way kiss. Sierra said Shelly's the best kisser on Aftersun. So that is something that we missed on there. Is it dialed in to Shelly and Amaya, and they talked and they asked who the best kisser was. Sierra said Shelly, Amaya said Zach, who she's coupled up with. And then they asked who their ideal throuple situation would be. And Sierra said Nick and Iris, and Amaya said Zach and Pepe. So in the talking head of this episode, Sierra said, Iris is the ideal throuple situation. And Nick said, me too, for me too. And so they had fun, this challenge. They enjoyed it. Alondra and Elon went next. Alondra her moves were ass focused, shaking it. She pulled Brian's head into her ass and was shaking it. Austin, though, she bent over and acted like she was fucking him from behind, which I feel like has happened multiple times. Like Austin's had a girl do that to him as a challenge, which we don't kink shame, so good for you, man. But just kind of funny. Alondra pulled Taylor into the middle to kind of go in on him and make out some. Elon pulled Sierra. Nick didn't love it. And then Elon said, it's your turn to watch, bro. I felt like was kind of a dick move. That's one that I don't really, that felt unnecessary. But you could tell Nick was very bothered by this. He did not love it at all and felt like Elon was doing too much and really going in on it. And I mean, he was going way longer after Alondra and Taylor were done. Elon kept going and kept going and kept going. Nick was very frustrated and pissed, saying he thinks he went over the line. I'll be interested to see if there's any conversations between those two afterwards. Finally, Clark and Taylor went. Clark also kissed Sierra. Sierra says she enjoyed it. Taylor is he gives more goofy vibes than sexy. That's just kind of his thing. I feel like Clark pulled Jaden and Austin up, and then she met out with Austin. She said she wanted to redeem herself for the 1.8 rating. Taylor made out with Jaden a little bit. And so that concluded the couples, and those were kind of the highlights, stood out. Clark did say when Alondra pulled Taylor, she felt like she was being a bit extra, doing a bit too much. But hey, I get it. They have the history there. When they gave the results, Iris's heart rate was raised the most by Nick, Amaya's by Pepe, Andreina's by Pepe, Jaden's by Nick, Shelly by Chris, Huda by Elon, Grayson by Nick, Sierra by Elon, and Alondra by Chris. You could tell when they announced, and Clark by Ace. You could tell when they announced that Sierra's was by Elon. Nick looked a little bothered, but I mean, it's not really fair because you're doing the dance with your partner, so your partner's not going to be the one to raise it most. Like, that's the other thing from this that it took away with them doing as couples. There's not really the opportunity as much for your partner to be the one that raises your heart rate the most. And then for the guys, TJ's heart rate was raised the most by Grayson, who's coupled up with Pepe, Zach's by Sierra, Brian by Sierra, Austin by Amaya, Chris by Shelly, Pepe by Andreina, so they both had each other there. Nick by Iris, Elon by Sierra, so they had each other there. Taylor by Alondra, and Ace by Huda. So that was a whole thing. Shelly is pretty pissed at Huda, is the gist of where this episode left off. But Nick and Sierra's raised heart rates the most as a couple. I thought maybe that meant they were going to get the hideaway. Nope, nothing doing there. I don't know what it is. We are in week 5, and the only hideaway use was when Sierra and Charlie were introduced as bombshells. So I'm not sure if they're like, these couples are already fucking enough. We can't put them in a solo room to fuck. We're not going to be able to get any footage. I don't know what the deal is, but usually we've had the hideaway open multiple times by now. So I feel like that would have been a good reward for this challenge since you're doing it as a couple. Like, hey, you guys got heart rates raised the most. You guys get the night in the hideaway. Maybe that'll come up. I don't think so, though. We'll see at the beginning of next week's episode. Huda is pulling Amaya and Andreina, talking. She's like, I don't know why Shelly's pissed. I did the same thing for him I did for everyone. Not true. You pulled him up there. You were doing a lot, which it's a challenge, but he was singled out, and I get that it was partially because you pulled the couple and Chris had Shelly, but you did go in way longer with her. And she even said later when it goes to her, she's like, well, yeah, I'm going to do the most for him. I'm like, well, so then you didn't do the same for everyone else. So could you see why it seems like he was singled out and you went in for it? And they were cutting back and forth between that conversation and then Shelly talking to Alondra and Sierra asking if she's out of line, that she's mad. But she keeps saying like she felt like it was too extra. And she says that, yeah, I did it for Chris. And she made a comment. She's like, yeah, Huda keeps telling me like, yeah, I brought Chris here for you. He's here for you. Like, yeah, I did that for you. Like trying to almost like win Shelly's affection, it seems like, or be like, see, look what I did for you. You can't be mad. And I don't know, maybe Huda does have a thing for Ace and she is trying to get Shelly to go with Chris. I don't know. Like Shelly's like, well, it's so weird how she would do this after everything she was with Jeremiah and how protective she was. I feel like you can't be mad at her for that. Like, yes, while that's true, you all told her she was doing too much with Jeremiah. So you can't then be like, well, that's how she was with that. Even though we shit on her for all that, she should then do that same thing for us. I don't really think so. I feel like both of them are like, Huda needs to realize why Shelly could be upset. And take some accountability for maybe going a bit harder than she needed to in the challenge. Or like, I mean, it's a challenge. So if you do that, you do that. But then you just take accountability saying, hey, sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. I get why you're upset. I was just caught up in the challenge. I could have done better. Sorry, my B. And Shelly, I don't think needs to be like her being this possessive over Ace with it, which I get she's coupled up, but she clearly still has feelings for Chris as well and wants to explore that. So I think you can be hurt. You can be upset. I think they just both need to hash it out. I do think Huda has come a long way. So I do think they can have a mature conversation without just yelling or anything like that. And I do think Shelly is pretty good at communicating her feelings. So I think the reason we didn't get a preview for next week's episode after tonight is because there aren't any fireworks. They just have a calm, casual conversation, but we'll see. But that's where the episode left off. So that's going to do it. I thought this was going to be a short, like 10-minute thing, and I talked for 30 minutes. But that's going to do it for tonight's episode, kicking off week 5. Heartrate challenge, always a fun one. This is one where I actually kind of enjoyed the new wrinkles that they threw into it. So that's going to do it. We'll probably see you tomorrow night after Monday's episode for a bonus recap there. So, and then on Wednesday's actual podcast episode, there will be an overview of what is coming to streaming and theaters in the month of July. So make sure to tune into that as you're looking for the next thing that you might want to watch after Love Island finishes up on July 13th. So thank you all watching, listening, like, comment, share, subscribe. Don't forget to go down once more. Later.